Hello again and welcome back. Um, it's been a while since the last stream. Kinda had a bad depressive episode, but I'm better now. I'm waiting for further instructions right now regarding the potential tsunami. Um, a few hours after the Russian earthquake, but hopefully everything will be safe. And regardless, it's expected to get here by tomorrow. So nothing to worry about yet. Anyways, we're here. I don't remember exactly what my plan was for this stream, since it's been a while since the last one. In the last one, we tackled homecoming, hunger, shattered memories, and the orphan games. Today is a Downpour day, which has a lot of characters, as you can see. I could probably squeeze PT in here. Uh, the idea was for this to be a longer stream, if I remember correctly, but I don't think I have enough time today to do a very long one. We'll see what we can get. But for now, I'm eyeing Downpour, PT, and maybe Sinner's Reward. We'll see how that goes. Alright, let's start with Downpour. Uh, it's a contested take, but I quite like Downpour. I prefer it for trying new things. Uh, I would rather have it not quite look like a Silent Hill game as long as it tries new things with the formula. So I'm gonna have quite a bit of fun doing this one. Let's start with our protagonist, Murphy Pendleton. I think I'm going to start right away, um, controversially, and I'm going to put Murphy Pendleton in S tier. I think he's a very relatable protagonist. I really like his performance. I think he's well acted. I wish we knew. I wish we knew more about his actor. He really nails that perpetually exhausted, but just just enough energy to be angry. I really love that vibe from him. You can also tell that he has a heart of gold somewhere inside him, which I appreciate. Um, for this purpose, I don't consider the execution ending as canon or whatever. Um, my personal idea is that the bad endings in this franchise mostly are just mandated for the sake of having a bad ending, and I don't really get the impression that they care much about it. Um, Murphy genuinely loves his son. You can see in flashbacks that he was really a good father to him. They do stuff together. Also, the poor man, his wife left him, and he also worries about Anne. Even if she's trying to kill him, he still cares about her. He doesn't really want to hurt anybody. I think he can be very judgmental, which is ironic. I think he's pretty smart too. He's not anywhere as impulsive as Alex, but he can get impulsive when he gets fed up with everything. I'm not sure what else to say about Murphy. I like his character design. I like his backstory, which we're gonna talk about a little more in another about a specific point when we get to the monastery boy. Um, yeah, I really love Murphy. I think I think he's up there with the best protagonists. I really like him, and like I said, I really sympathize with him, and I really relate to him. Next, we have our second protagonist, and arguably the true protagonist of Downpour as an entire whole, and Anne Marie Cunningham. Okay, so here's the thing. I subscribe to the theory slash interpretation that Downpour and the whole journey you go through was never about Murphy. That the person that the town was clinging onto from the start was Anne and just her. And it just so happened that she dragged Murphy and everyone else along with her. And Murphy just happened to have his own baggage. I subscribe to that, and it's definitely the one with the more intense feelings in the game. I really like I really like her character arc, how she thinks that the town is trying to guide her to revenge, and that's the way she gets out. But then when she finally brings herself to pull the trigger on Murphy, uh, the town just goes, "No, fuck you," and sends them both to Overlook Penitentiary. I think she's great. She's great. She's a very flawed person. Uh, she cares, but she's been so hardened by the weight of having to take care of her father for so long and seeing the kind of violent prisoners and never seeing the good in them like her father did. I also love her character design. I like her. I like her performance as well. I saw her actress once, and she seemed like a really nice person. That was very nice to see. Also, Anne does really well in her own comic. We get more introspection about her. Although her journey isn't quite as grand as Murphy's because of pacing things with a comic, but I still quite like her. I might like her more than Murphy, but I think the both of them work better as a tandem. Like, I think the theme of Downpour of not really understanding someone just from the available information that you might imagine about them, I think that's really expressed well with how Murphy and Anne's characters don't really work as well on their own, but as complements of each other. They really bring Downpour's story up. She's also been through some bad shit, some bad stuff that she did to get close to Murphy and try to kill him. Uh, she locked herself in an affair with a scummy prison warden. Uh, she she was very innocent as a child, but you can tell that age and her experiences made her so bitter. I love Anne. Also, I really love fan art of these two. Even if don't necessarily ship them, I really enjoy seeing them together in fan art. And even if Anne is kind of killing Murphy in them, but it's kind of my favorite pairings, not necessarily romantic. Next up is the main villain of Downpour, George Sewell. So he's the main villain as a whole for Downpour, but he isn't really a presence in the town itself. And I really like him because it makes him seem so unavailable. Like everything he did to you is now done and you can't even touch him. I really like that. I don't think he's very complex of a character to be in S tier, but I think I would put him as a high A tier, maybe above Waitley. I think he really achieves what the character is going for. He's so hateable, but also in a way he doesn't quite feel like a caricature. He does seem like an abusive cop, which is what he is. Uh, Again, a lot of props for his performance. I think his acting is really good as well. Uh, in flashbacks, in those lines we get in the Centennial building when he's making the deal with Murphy. Um, as a fun fact, in the reversal ending, when Anne wakes up in Murphy's place in the prison, and Murphy is the guard waking her up, you can see that he's wearing Sewell's gloves, which is a detail that they didn't need to have, but they did. I don't remember if he also has Sewell's nameplate on him. I think he does, but I really like that. I really like that detail. Also, speaking of those gloves, I really like them as for his character design. It's kind of his signature no living evidence thing. A very corrupt individual, very hateable, gets away with everything just because he's punctual in his job. Um, I love to hate him. Maybe I don't love to hate him as much as, say, Dr. Kaufman from Silent Hill 1, but I think it's a good continuation of that archetype. Someone who is above the law, yet is supposed to be a beacon of order. I don't know if I wish we saw more of him, but I'm definitely glad with what we have. And potentially, he might die in the true ending. If the Truth and Justice ending is canon, then there is a very big chance that Anne kills him in that ending. I think it would be a bad move for her to do right inside the prison, but I get the feeling that she will get that revenge one way or another. And however it happens, Sewell's gonna pay. So high A tier for George Sewell. Um, okay, Patrick Napier. Morally, this guy is going to be born in hell, but uh, let's hold our horses a bit. So, Patrick is a pedophile. He has uh, he has a record, which means that he has done things to more kids than just Charlie. But yet, he only got convicted for the murder of one kid, Daniel Stephens. And yet, and yet, he is sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole. So he is isolated forever, and he's never getting out, which I think is a fitting punishment. Personally, not a supporter of death penalty. I think Patrick could have been punished well enough by just spending his entire life never seeing freedom again and rotting in there. Um, what we see of him in prison is that he's pretty much a coward. And I like, I mean, this doesn't work as well when you already know the story of Downpour, but if you go into the game blind and the game opens with Murphy beating up this guy and he looks so helpless, it's kind of disturbing and sad to see this man playing for his life when you don't know what he did. And I think the game plays that very well. It, it's almost tragic when you don't know what's happening. Um, I think that's a very good scene. Even though I get that it might not be the tone for Silent Hill that people like the most, but I think it's going to be a C, somewhere between his evil role and how well played out that scene is. Kind of trick the audience into feeling pity for him, and then wonder if it was really worth it, make him go through all that pain before dying when he was going to rot in jail anyways. Because Murphy doesn't know that. Murphy doesn't know that Patrick has no chance for parole, that he is going to be there until he dies. I find it interesting. So Patrick Napier, C tier. He definitely conveys more of a character in my mind than say Judge Holloway, who's similarly hateable. Next up is the man, Frank Coleridge. He's going to be a high A tier, definitely. We're counting him as the wheelman as well. So Frank Coleridge, he was the good cop. He was trying to be fair to everyone. He wanted justice to be about rehabilitating prisoners. You know, the kind of stuff that you hear when people want to think of policemen doing good things. That's the archetype. That's the, how do you call it? The idea of what a good cop would be like. But what he gets is that he's a good cop in the system of terrible people. and eventually he gets killed for just for being the good cop. And I really think that idea to explore. He gets killed, and pretty much either because of malice or incompetence or both, um, his killer gets away with it. He was he was kind of a father figure for Murphy, even in his worst moments. He also wanted Anne to be like him when he learned that she wanted to be a cop too. Also, as the wheelman, he has a really good design. He's inspired by Robert Johnny, the video from FX Twin, and I really like his presence as the wheelman. He just kind of follows you and doesn't seem to even want to hurt you. Maybe he judges you from a distance, but he isn't directly attacking you. He's kind of a memory in the back of your mind. You know, that old regret. Lady to the right of the alien in S tier. Ah, that's Maya Hindenburg from Short Message. I really like how her story deals with the generational trauma and the how you say it, the old shame of her family history, how she thinks that she might end up the same way as her grandmother. I really like that how it explores that. So continuing about Frank, I I really like the wheelman. I like that in the monastery, Young Anne is kind of taking care of him as well, and I like that even in his aggressive form, as the boss form, he isn't really in control of the fight. He kind of launches things at you from a distance and kind of stumbles over to punch the floor and you along with it. But it seems very desperate. And when the lighting attack happens, he isn't even in control of it. You can see that it's pretty much causing him as much pain as it is dealing to you. It's also quite, it's kind of disturbing the way that he struggles to stay alive when you take off his life support. I do prefer him as the regular Willman, though, the one that is more pathetic and sad. I think it fits him better, but there's good things about the post Willman, though. Um, I don't know if I like him more than Sewell. I'm going to put them both together. Uh, you did it. You killed the boogeyman. Charlie, Charlie Pendleton, he was a nice kid. We know he liked to work in cars with Murphy. We know he liked playing outdoors. Uh, it's kind of hard to get a read on Charlie because we only get a few glimpses of what he was like. Um, what would be? I mean, we know he was good. His character model isn't good. Poor, poor Charlie. He deserved a better character model. Um, I don't want to put him next to Napier. Uh, we don't see much of him, though. He does motivate the story. We get him in that cute scene for the birds side quest. I think he's going in D tier. If we saw him more, then it could have pumped him up a little. Yeah, I wish I put him higher. Kind of feels wrong to have him in D tier, but he doesn't. He influences the story a lot, but he doesn't really appear much in it. I mean, he's a spare from E tier because his few scenes are very cute. Yeah. Carol Pendleton, the woman we see exactly twice in the game and in one note, which is wild to me. I mean, I kind of appreciate that the game is about Murphy and his son instead of focusing on his ex-wife too. She isn't much of a character. We know she blames Murphy for Charlie's death, which is messed up, but I guess she's just not coping well, so it's hard for me to blame her too much. We know Murphy and her were in couples counseling for a while, judging of a note in the Centennial. She seems very sad in the execution ending, but it's that ending is so weird. It's hard to tell if she is that devastated because she thinks Murphy might have been innocent or she's just mourning Charlie. She she is barely in the story at all, I think. I'll put her in it here. Oh, meeting with Carol. It could be. I mean, is that in the forgiveness ending? If that's so, then it would make sense for Murphy to start to rebuild his life. I like Carol, but I don't necessarily wish we saw more of her because I don't think she really needs a spotlight. We don't see much of her. That's nice. I'm gonna keep her in E tier. I like her role. I like her short appearances and broader influence that we don't really see, but we can infer that it has affected Murphy. But she doesn't do much directly, to the point that so many people don't even know that she's in the game. DJ Bobby Riggs, he's going in A tier. He's fun. Uh, he's he was kind of a shock jock DJ at some point. Uh, got a guy killed on accident because of a sort of prank show. He definitely didn't mean ill, but he sure as hell blames himself for it. I think so. You know how people don't really like the idea of the town being an omnipresent puppet master in Downpour. Uh, while I like the idea, I don't know how to feel about it for the franchise as a whole. I do think you can make a compromise with the idea for this game. So what I think about it, and I have, it's an idea I subscribe to. It's not originally mine. The idea is that the town being a sentient puppet master is Bobby's interpretation of what's happened to him. Because his journey, well, quote unquote journey, since he was in his room the whole time, is about him pulling the strings to get someone killed unknowingly. And that's his interpretation of the town. And it has manifested that way to him, which was personal to him. And then Murphy and Anne hear that interpretation because when they start thinking about the town guiding them consciously, they do it after hearing how Riggs talks about it. And I think you can get a compromise about Murphy and Anne getting influenced by Riggs's theory and then in turn adopting it in their journeys. And I think you can make that work. I think. After all, they do have some, how do you say it, room, interjourneys, interpasts to feel that there's someone pulling strings. And then when they hear Riggs say that the town is pulling strings, they adopt it. And that's how it gets into their journeys from that point on. And how we get to that point in the boat where the town actively stops Anne from killing Murphy. So I think it can work for this game. And thank you, DJ Riggs. He's he's a good person. He made a terrible mistake, but he sure feels guilty about it. And then he risks his life during the calls, and just to get Murphy help as well. Yeah, JP Sater. I don't think he's as interesting as Riggs, but I like him. I could put him in a high B tier, maybe around Laura. I like him. He seems very much based on J.F. Sebastian from Blade Runner. Even the actor does a similar performance, which is great. Uh, I'm in the camp that I think JP was innocent. I think the theme of the game is learning, mm, knowing the person beyond what their environment and what their context says about them, which is the whole dynamic between Murphy and Anne. And I think the game tells you so much about stuff about JP that I kind of feel like it's trying to tell you to focus on JP, not in what's around him. At least that's the impression I get. And I think JP is just, well, either way, guilty or not, he definitely is messed up. You can find pills and beers and everything in the fridge here. Either way, guilty or not, he didn't take it well mentally. My theory for him being innocent is that the, the companies must have known that Devil Speed wasn't safe for rides. It would have happened sooner or later. And with how tourism was kind of the main thing that was trying to revitalize Silent Hill, I feel like they would have gotten um how do you oh it's the expression isn't a slap on the knee, isn't it? It's not. Yeah, something of a cover up. Because if they blame the thing on human error, then they can continue doing the rights and continuing with the industry. JP just, I feel like the game is trying to tell us that guilty or innocent, this man is suffering, and I feel like considering the other arcs in the game about Murphy and Anne not seeing one another correctly because they're so focused on the circumstances instead of the person, then that we have to consider that JP, the man, might not really be as guilty as the circumstances around him make him seem. Plus, he definitely feels guilty enough for to have ghost children haunting him in the riots in the comic. Also, Monocle Man, I find it very telling that the Monocle Man is meant to be JP's other form, and that only happens after Murphy has subscribed and condemned JP as a guilty party in the accident. Also, a funny thing is that JP always throws coins from the pista deck, and at the start of the minecart ride, you can find the pile of coins where all of the coins he has been throwing have landed on, and I love it. But it's so low detail that it doesn't really look like a pile of coins at first glance. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how I feel about the Monocle Man boss fight. I mean, it was the one we see is barely even finished, but it didn't seem very special. And I like that. I like that just seeing him at the end of the ride and then never again. It kind of stands up better than as a boss fight to me. Howard Blackpool, I really like Howard, but with a caveat. I like Howard in the comic past life more than in Downpour. That's my caveat. So Howard in Downpour has more of an omniscient avatar of the town kind of thing going on. And you can still make the argument that he is a man going along with the ride, so to say. But he definitely has more of a higher thing going on in the game. And I don't dislike that, but I don't find it as interesting as his portrayal in Past Life. In that one, he comes across as if he's still the Howard Blackwood, the person, but he isn't in control of anything. He's just he just lives and sees what the town does and follows it along. He doesn't have any control yet, maybe. He just knows. He just knows things. He can recognize things, but it's like he's a guest in this world. And I like that idea a lot. Like, what if Harry had stayed in Silent Hill and just became a resident during Silent Hill 1, and then whoever got caught up in the other world eventually just found him. He's still just a regular man, but he knows a lot more. He knows things are, what the purpose of things are. Also, he gets called kind of a slur in Past Life, and he just laughs it off. And it's just so kind of him. He also might be the least judgmental person in Downpour. The most upset he gets is when Murphy tears up the first letter and he just says, kind of says it as advice that it's not about what he wants. I don't know. What's the. Do we see more of him? No, we last see him in Before St. Maria's. I don't remember if he's in the full circle ending among the Boys Lands that play. The way I really like him, and I like the scene in Past Life where the sheriff station and the bar go up in flames in Silent Hill's central area, and he just instinctively knows that it's it's about Jebediah, but he doesn't know what exactly yet. I really like that scene. The nun. I can't put her too low, despite her minor role, because I really like her voice acting. I really like her performance. I might put her in a B tier. Um, I mean that's it. I really like her voice. I don't know what it is about it, but I really like it. Um, Her role is kind of weird, but I like that scene where she and Murphy talk over each other, and she's just reciting a prayer. It's confusing and overloading a bit, but in a way I like. Also, she has really short hair. If you clip through the model, she kinda has textured hair that you don't ever see. and it's very short, black hair. Uh, don't know what else to say about her. I really like her presence. The monastery boy. Okay, so this kid is confusing because I I know he kinda has a bad model and he's also acted weirdly, but his death is impactful. I've seen people say that it's too much, but I think it worked for me. The weird thing about this kid, which might not be canon, is that in his file name is Young Murphy, and we know from the nun's profile in the games gallery that Murphy is an orphan and he was raised in an orphanage. So it could be that he was originally going to be a flashback Murphy and they repurposed him, or it might be that he still is, just with a very diminished role, and we can't tell. But I like the ambiguity. If he were still Murphy, then his death at the hands of the boogeyman would have another meaning. Uh, yeah, it's a weird character to think about when you've seen the file name. I don't think there's another character in the series that has confused me after that. Alright, this next is the young girl, aka Young Anne. She's definitely a bit higher. She might be along with the nun. Well, also a bad model. God knows that Downpour is not very nice to its child characters, and this is kind of a representation of Anne's innocence. The little girl she used to be when she looked up to her father, and we can see in the monastery otherworld, namely, that she's still very much very dedicated to him. She's very scared of Murphy, uh, kind of tells the other boy that he's the boogeyman, which fits that adult and sees Murphy as the boogeyman. I like her early cameo. Yeah, I like her early cameo in the Centennial, and it's kind of there's there's like two chances in the game to figure out that this girl is child Anne, and one is that a very quick cameo in a water slide section, and the other is her tending to the wheelman in the monastery otherworld. I think it's kind of funny. that sometimes Downpour is very blatant with what it wants to say, and other times it obscures it a lot, as with Carol. Yeah, low B. I can put her above Denon because Denon has that great voice. Sanchez. Sanchez. Uh, I really don't like Sanchez. I, I would dare say I feel kind of offended by him. I don't think, I wouldn't say Downpour is racist, like I've seen some people, but I definitely think that when they wanted to have more diversity, they might have pulled a bit too much from just TV shows. And I think Sanchez is the worst example of that. He's just not the best uh, thing to see, especially coming after Michelle in Shattered Memories, who was like the best Latino representation we've had. Sanchez, I mean, in general, he's a terrible person. He's kind of, he's probably a sex offender. He treats very misogynistically. I like that he comes across as so misogynistic that it is theorized that the screamers are his monster because they're women. I can't even argue with that. I hadn't heard that one. Sanchez, I could put him in Born in Hell, but he was at least at least he he I don't know where I was going with that. I don't know if I should. No, I don't hate him that much. I don't hate him as much as comic Christabella. I just think he's in very bad taste, and he's barely a character outside of acting misogynistic. Oh yeah, I like the banter, but also it's very bad Spanish too, which is also funny. Okay, you know what? He's staying in it here because that bad Spanish banter is funny. Homer, Homer. Oh, this guy, I love him. He's barely a character, but I love him. Homer, the homeless man. I like that he's helpful. I don't like that he dies. um, Homeless man. He lives in the Silent Hill subway now. Presumably an older prisoner who wasn't on the bus somehow, yet exists. Maybe magic, maybe mundane. Um, he seems he seems like he knows things, as in wisdom things, but he is very eccentric, kind of. Oh, I really want to think that it's Kim sleeping. Um, he seems to have had a weird role in the in the early development stages. Like, I think it was found that he was a character named the Ferryman, and he had this big coat and a lamp with him, which I find it interesting. I don't know how it would have fit, but it was interesting. There's also an unused texture for the final prison level security monitors. There's one that shows an army of homers staring at the screen with pinhole eyes, and it's absurdly creepy. And more interestingly, in the files for the full circle ending, it calls to load Homer's model, but he's nowhere in that ending, and that piques my curiosity because he kind of feels like he would fit in that ending. Out of out of all the characters that could show up physically in that ending, besides Murphy and the Wheelman, I feel like Homer would have fit in really well, and I wonder why they decided against it. Low A tier. He is such a minor character, but he's very fun to think about. Oh, the Boogeyman. The Boogeyman. Sorry, sorry. Where's the butcher? Where did I put the butcher? Where did I put him? Oh, there he is. He's in mid A tier. I think the Boogeyman is a high A tier. Oh yeah, I also love his voice acting. I love the Boogeyman's concept that he is the result of how we dehumanize the people that we hate. I know that his design doesn't work for the vast majority of players, but for me it does. It it makes me it doesn't scare me, but it makes me intrigued. I like the gas mask. I don't think his design would work without a mask of some sort and the hood, since the point is that anybody could be under the mask. The hammer, I would say the hammer is a little weird because I don't know what the point of the cinder block is. Um, I feel like it has to have some meaning that I haven't thought of. Also, he isn't a stalker enemy, which puts him gives him more points in creativity. He just appears what once in the Centennial, and then the monastery level is entirely themed around him. So it's not that he's a pursuer through the entire game. He's just in he's just mainly in that one level. And that final confrontation with when you play as the boogeyman himself, it may be a little janky in controls, but I think it's the best way to end the game thematically. I don't think there's other way to finish the game than with having you be Anne's final boss, because that's pretty much what that fight is. You are the final boss, and Anne is the player in her journey. I really like that. I think it's the perfect way to end Downpour's story. Yeah, I think out of all the Pyramid Head so-called clones, I think the Downpour Boogeyman is by far the most original. Uh, I think the main similarities are just a big weapon and his overall size. That said, he could really use a better boss fight in the monastery. If there was a Downpour remaster, which I always pray for, I would really like his fight to be a bit more complex. It's a bit too simple who's for Murphy's ultimate trial. But they should keep that the finishing blow is done by grabbing his hammer. It's a very important it's a very important theme. I find it more important to the boogeyman than it is for say Travis grabbing the butcher's cleaver in that fight. Who's next? The bus driver, Mr. M. Coons. He's kind of funny. He had one job. I mean, he probably would have crashed anyways, but still, it's kind of funny to blame him for the crash. He doesn't have much going for him besides having a cool name, and I think his design is good for a minor character that we barely see. In the comic, and hallucinates him uh, getting up, his corpse getting up, and calling her a bitch for insulting his driving, which is kind of funny. I put him in D tier. Officer Willis, the man with the weird continuity error. This man is so. This man intrigues me. He shows up at the prison in the beginning, does this cool pose with the shotgun, and then doesn't board the bus. He stays at Ryle. But then in the comic, after the bus crash, Anne starts calling for Willis, and as if he had been in the bus with her. And she follows into Devil's Pit, and she finds hold on, where is he? Freddy Gates killing a police officer who they both identify as Officer Willis. But then I don't remember if it's in the Forgiveness or the Truth and Justice ending. Officer Willis is alive and looking for Anne. It's so weird. I can't help but love his weird continuity. I I'm putting him in a C tier because he's not that important, but I love that weird continuity thing he has going on. Officer Aguilar, he has one line. He says something like, "You heard the lady. Now get on the bus." I don't know if he says that second part. Officer Aguilar he's rocking that bald dome. He seems like he would be kind of lazy at the job, but shows up anyways. He's not as interesting. He's not as interesting as the others, and he doesn't even appear in the comic. But he also appears in that one ending with Officer Willis looking for Anne. So there's that. Also, I didn't put the. Oh, should I? So there's a third security guard that appears through the game that looks a lot like Sanchez, and it's actually George Sewell's old model. He appears as a recurring character with no lines. He appears in a flashback of Murphy talking with Sewell and Frank. Then he also appears at the cafeteria riot and also at the start of the game before they board the bus. He's definitely not even a very character, but it's fun that he uses Sewell's old model. Okay, Ariadne Johnson, this poor girl. I don't know where to place her because I mean the side quest is really impactful. Even if not as a character, the side quest is. I think she's going deep. I should check if it's the same model for both of them. So Ariane, she's the autistic girl that gets fooled by her mother into drowning. Very tragic side quest. And her mother, Amy Johnson, she did that because she got fed up with raising such a dependent daughter and not getting to live her own life. And she presumably just went up and left after Ariane died. She's definitely a terrible person. I'm going to put her in D tier because she's not that. I mean, it's kind of a James situation, but we don't get as much nuance because, well, it's a side quest. We don't really get to explore either of them. But the little we see definitely wants us to empathize more with Ariane than Amy. Plus, she kind of says it like she's celebrating. The only reason she's not going any lower is because the impact of the twist is very heavy. Next up is the thief at I forgot the name of the apartments. Hillside Apartments. That was it. And the thief uh, stole a bunch of he stole stuff from a war vet and a bunch of children. That's messed up. Idiot. I mean, he. I mean, the clothes he gives don't even suit Murphy much. And also, yeah, why the hell did Murphy put on clothes from a hanging body? That's messed up. An idea I had for the side quests in Downpour, in that hypothetical remaster, would be that depending on what side quest you complete, they could actually affect your karma instead of doing it just through the choices which aren't very good and killing enemies. So like doing this side quest with the thief, returning the stolen items, that should give you good karma. But doing stuff like the bank heist, killing enemies in the vault, even though killing the enemies gives you bad karma, I think doing the side quest by itself, it should give you bad karma. I think they could try that, depending on whether the side quest feels more selfless or more selfish, even if it's justified. Oh yeah. Oh, you weren't here for the George Sewell entry, but um, in that ending, Murphy is wearing Sewell's gloves, and I think he also wears his name tag. And it's not just Murphy's head put on Sewell's model. I think it was adjusted for Murphy. Melissa Matlan. So there's a lot of garbage people in the side quest. Melissa definitely is one of them. Melissa is the woman in charge of the art gallery that was extorting people for their paintings. Presumably because, well, not presumably, I think it's all but confirmed that she was investigating the map on their backs. So very very selfish motivation. Um, Judging by what I assume our collectors are like, she was pretty much threatening some old people. She threatened one of them with exposing details about their son's suicide, which is really fucked up. I'm not putting her in E just because she's such a terrible, terrible person that it stands out a lot to me. More than anything else in that side quest, the paintings, the map, the crypt, Melissa being a terrible, terrible person is the thing that stands out to me. Next up is Warden Glenn Milton. So this is the warden of Royal Estate. Well, this is the warden of Royal Estate Prison. It's hard to gauge him because we know that Royal wasn't good, but we don't know if he was a very incompetent person or he was kind of in on it. Because there are some notes from him calling for investigation, but he could be playing into it. I think we know about this man, the list of the prison characters. Well, not the list. There's some other heroes that could be considered less. Oh yeah, that's pretty much what Melissa was doing. She wanted the paintings for the map that she was assembling in the basement, and since the paintings were in possession of other collectors or their dutiful owners, she started extorting them, blackmailing them for the for the paintings. Captain Brian Huntley. This man, I don't know how to judge him either, because he works for Glenn Milton at the Ryle State Prison. He conducts the investigation on Sewell and Napier's and Frank Coleridge's murders, but he doesn't seem to actually do anything right. He seems dutiful, I'll give him that, but he's not very competent at it. If he's not in cahoots with Sewell, uh, I think I'll put him in D because we kind of get more of a sense of his work than Warden Milton. Um, Judith Zaragoza, this is the parole officer. Um, with Judith and Dr. Wayne Sarah and Robert Block, I, I wonder a bit if I should even put them there, but I figure why not. Uh, Judith Zaragoza is pretty much the person to to congratulate for allowing Murphy to go on parole, which ended up not happening, and for deciding that Patrick Napier should never ever come back to general population, which is, you know, that was kind of right of her. Definitely more competent than Captain Handley. Still a very much minor character. Just gonna put her above Amy Johnson. Dr. Wayne Sarah. Someone I struggled because I didn't know if it was supposed to be Sarah Wayne or Wayne Sarah, but I think it's supposed to be Wayne Sarah. This is the psychiatrist at Ryle. Uh, this is the person that writes the report on the two scribbled out characters that are supposed to be Murphy or Napier, but you don't know at that point who is who. Uh, Again, judging of how I've been ranking every Downpour character without considering the execution ending canon, I'm going to guess that Dr. Winsara is a very good psychiatrist. Definitely more of a better judge of character than Captain Handley. Hmm. Uh, I'm gonna put him above Brian Handley. Next up is this boy. This is Daniel Stephens. So, from what we get in the notes in the game, we don't ever see a Patrick Napier and be convicted of killing Charlie Pendleton, but we see that he was convicted for killing this Daniel Stephens boy. The implications are kind of up to interpretation. Maybe there wasn't enough evidence to convict him of Charlie's murder. Maybe he got away in a technicality or something. But this is the kid that finally did him in. Um, I don't know where to put him. I guess he should go around here. Robert Block, or Robert, or Roberta Block. I never got it. think different sites write it differently when I was making this. So this is a doctor. No, is it the director? No, I think this is just a doctor. Either way, this is a person at Saint Maria's Institute, not a monastery, the institute. Pretty much approving and carrying out some, you know, terrible procedures on autistic children. Downpour playing into parental fears there. Judging by how I can't remember if he was a director or just another doctor, I'm going to put him in E tier. But, you know, he was in general going to be a terrible person. But not as terrible as Dr. Chloe Zane, the worst person at St. Maria's Institute. And this one stands out the most to me out of all these bad people. Chloe Zane was the one that sees an autistic child and writes in the evaluation that every behavior about them is wrong and that they have to fix him. And what happens? They fucking kill him during the procedure. And then she blames the parents for agreeing to it. She's, I think she's up there with the worst people in the game, and we only ever hear about her in notes. The subplot in Saint Maria is really messed up. It's like if they took the Ribbon side quest and made a whole level, well, kind of half a level about it. It's kind of why I like the monastery. But that's for when I I get to the levels and locations tier list someday. Prisoner Rick. Oh, this man. I'm going to give him a C tier. Prisoner Rick was a guy that we get notes of, journal notes, in Overlook Penitentiary at the end of the game. Rick, of course, is down from staying at the prison. He wants to see his girlfriend. He thinks that guards are abusive, which probably they are. And his subplot ends near the workshops area. We can get a note from him saying that it's over. And when you turn around, you see a shadow of a hanging man in the wall across from you. And it's implied that that's meant to be Rick. It was too much for him. I don't think we know what he was in prison for, but he doesn't seem like a bad person. And finally, for Downpour, we have the warden Stephen Creviston, which, interestingly, is the same last name as the sheriff from the Past Life comic, which is fun. Uh, Stephen Creviston is the warden of Overlook Penitentiary in Silent Hill. He pretty much downplays the strange happenings at the prison, says that people make stories because it's a dark place and there are terrible people there, and that stuff. But also we get a note that Overlook Penitentiary executed an innocent man. And you know what? I'm going to blame Warden Crayston for it. Uh, what else? He's pretty much in a note, an article about Overlook Penitentiary and its rumors. And yeah, he's downplaying stuff, makes me hate him. He's he's going a bit up there because of the name correction, because that's fun. So that's Downpour completed. It took me 1 hour and a half. Let's see how much we can squeeze in here. Um, how about we move on to Sinner's Reward, the first of the kind of final trilogy of comics, the Tom Waltz era from the writer of Downpour. So let's start with Jack Stanton. This is the protagonist of Sinner's Reward. He's a hitman for the mob. I think it's implied to be the Irish mob, but doesn't really matter. He has killed plenty of people, but he's tired. He's tired of the crime life, so he sleeps and no, doesn't sleep. He has a relationship, an affair with the his boss's girlfriend, and plans to run away with her. Um, in the path, they're ambushed by the mob people, and they have to pretty much escape into Silent Hill. Of course, he's full of guilt for everything he's done, all the people he's killed, and Silent Hill preys on that. I like the story a lot more in paper than in execution. Jack. Um, I think he's more interesting, but I like him less than Douglas Brennan from Hunger. I don't think he's a bad protagonist. He's just not very particularly unique. And personality, also he has a heart of gold deep inside, but he doesn't get to show it because he doesn't survive the comic. I guess I could put him. I'm just gonna put him in B tier and then sort it out later. And he's weird to rank because he should be more interesting than he feels. This is Jill Conway. Get it? In Jack and Jill. Jill Conway, of course, she's the boss's woman. She wants to run away from this life of crime as well, start a new life with Jack. But when they get to Silent Hill, she's the first to get convinced of the town wanting them to atone for things. And the way it does for her, she's pretty much made to wear a nurse costume, nurse outfit, and start treating the monsters. I mean, Jack sees them as monsters. It's not clear if Jill sees them as people or if she's just treating them like people. I guess that's a little bit more interesting than Jack. But in the end, she atones for their collective crimes by killing herself for the monsters. Um, I guess I'm gonna put her above Jack for now. She's kind of more. She has more of an arc and stronger motivations throughout the comic. I feel. Uh, this old guy, he is the innkeeper at or bartender or store clerk. He's something. The owner of the Charon business, roadside business outside Silent Hill. He's kind of a proto Howard in that he gives directions, gives help, but he seems to know something about Silent Hill and is guiding people there. Even if he's not supernatural in any way, he's still a nice guy. I'm going to put him below the other two protagonists. He's just interesting to think about what his deal could be. All right. Um, I'm moving into a few minor characters. So this is the first of the hitmen sent to kill Jack and bring Jill back. This is the lead brother. There's two brothers and a third hired gun. This is the one that does most of the talking. Doesn't last long. He's a little funny, I guess. And then he gets shot in the head by the Charon's clerk with a shotgun, which is also kind of badass. Like this old guy just killed two men from a from the mob. This one is his brother. Uh, these do have names, but I really struggle to remember them. This one is so boring that I don't think he even speaks. He doesn't even have a front-facing panel. He he's not as cool as his brother. This is the hard con. This is Jimmy Shee. This guy pretty much plans to run away with the money after the brothers are dead, and he goes, steals the car and drives into Silent Hill, if I remember correctly, and then he gets out of the car and gets mauled to death by sniffer dogs. When Jack gets there, he sees Jimmy as being still alive and taunting him. But of course, he looks again and Jimmy is dead, disemboweled all over. I guess he is on par with the lead brother. Still, not much special as characters, but they have fun scenes. This guy, I genuinely, he's like Ngari from Orphan, in that he's the father of a protagonist and very comically abusive. He was a hitman as well for the mob and raised Jack to be one. It's it's. Oh yeah, it is insane. I don't really care for this type of comically abusive fathers. Like at least with the except for where is he? Joe Senior, because I kind of like that one. I guess I don't like it when it's the motivation for the main character. Doesn't rub me off the wrong way. It just doesn't interest me. Alright, this is Finn Conway. This is supposed to be the antagonist for Sinister Ward, and he looks almost exactly like Adam Shepard, which is very funny to me. Like, this is an alternate reality Adam, where instead of joining the military, he became an alcoholic mobster. Uh, Finn finds out that Jack and Jill ran away, so he goes for a drink at the bar, asks the bartender for advice, and the bartender pretty much tells him to go handle things by himself. So Finn goes all the way to Silent Hill, threatens the clerk for directions to Jack and Jill. And what's all of this story for? As soon as he finds Jack outside of Brookhaven Hospital, Finn gets fucking stabbed in almost half by Pyramid Head. And that's the end of his story. He just goes to Silent Hill to get killed by Pyramid Head, which is oddly very similar to Adam Shepard's arc. You know what? That's kind of funny. You're going in here. We have two characters left, but before Sarah, I'm going to put the bartender in above Finn. I already said a bit about the bartender, but I have to show you that this is his main panel, and look at this guy and tell me he doesn't fuck. I rest my case. Okay, and this is the true antagonist of Sinner's Reward. This is Sarah Lingwood. Jack finds her in Silent Hill. She's injured, doesn't know where her parents are, and then Jack takes her to Brookhaven Hospital along with him. And there, when they meet Jill, Sarah remembers. She remembers who she was and why she's there. She remembers that she is dead because Jack killed her parents. I think it was in a robbery. And when Sarah witnessed the killings, Jack shot her in the head to silence her. So Sarah gets all bloody, angry, and starts chasing Jack until he kills himself. And I kind of like Sarah. I like how different she is from the timid, shy girl at the beginning to her vengeful self. I guess she's still not a great character, but she's entertaining. And yeah, at the end, she forces Jack to atone for his crimes by shooting himself. And that appeases Sarah. And that's a wrap on Sinner's Reward. Um, the next comics by Tom Waltz are definitely better. This one is just a little weird. Um, I don't want to go into the next comics just yet. Let's do PT. Why not? Um, does this guy even get a name, or is he just Norman Reedus forever? I I mean, he's Norman Reedus. He didn't have a character. He just turned to the screen, but he's Norman Reedus. That must account for something, right? I'm gonna get killed for not putting PT stuff on the highest tiers. Um, I guess he's a D tier. I mean, he's not even a character, but he's Norman Reedus. And I guess I don't know what to do about him. Lisa from PT. Now this is more of a character. Lisa, I mean, she's definitely up the upper tiers because of the backstory we get about her and the scare factor and all. I have to confess something. I haven't interacted with anything PT in a very long time, so I'm going off of very vague memories. I know that she was pregnant. She has an eye gouged out. She was killed by her husband in a fit of rage over his life. She's scary as fuck. Uh, I don't know. I can't put her in an S tier, but I can put her in a high A tier. I mean, I could put her above the Pokemon in a scare factor, but I kind of care about the Pokemon more in concept and theming. I mean, either way, Lisa is, um, for better or worse. No, I guess not much anymore. But she's a staple of the Silent Hill name already, even if she never got to be in a full game. But when people think about Silent Hill, when no, not when anyone, when people online think about Silent Hill, they're going to think about PT, right? Someone who isn't online much might think about Pyramid Head first, but someone who is very online will remember the story of that game that Kojima was going to make and got cancelled after thinking about Pyramid Head. So I guess Lisa should, yeah, she should be somewhere up here. The paper bag from the starring room. Is there? Do I have to? Do I even have to say anything? I love this bag. This was the best thing PT made. Don't quote me on that. That bag single-handedly made me care about PT back in the day. This bag with blood. That's what made me care about this game back in the day. So it's going in S tier. And finally, Lisa's husband. I mean, he should be near Lisa, right? I mean, in the tier list. I'm sure she doesn't want him around anymore. I mean, Taiga's pretty much similar backstory. Things got bad on his luck. He snaps one day, kills everyone. I mean, I guess he's not as with PT doesn't really explore much into him, which I guess is fair since Lisa is the victim. So I'm putting him on the opposite end of A tier. I think that's fair. And that's our wrap on PT. Alright, so we have left Book of Memories, The Arcade, Andy from the play novel. He's right here on his own. Ascension, the movies, Past Life, and Anne's story. So the way I'm thinking of things is I want Ascension and the movies in the same video, in the same stream. And I'm not going to, uh, I can't get them in this video, so I'm going to keep them for that next one. I could I could do the next ones in order. Book of Memories isn't that long. The arcade is a little longer, but a few of the characters are just nothing. Andy's on his own. And it's less than a row for the remaining comics. So yeah, I guess I can do this right now. I guess I have time. Uh, I mean, it's going to be easy because these characters aren't very memorable. The protagonist in Book of Memories. I mean, we know that they are generally a selfish person, though whether they learn to be better by the end is up to you, the player, and how you play. Can be a ghost, can be kinda emo, can be James, can be Heather, but in general, they're not a good person, and we know that they're very jealous, and I guess I kinda relate to that, but I don't want to, so I'm going to ignore that. Um, it feels wrong to put Norman Reedus alongside the Book of Memories protagonist. Norman Reedus doesn't have a personality. And Ben and Lucas from Orphan have more personality than Norman Reedus. Uh, screw it. I'm going to put them over the Orphan protagonists. I can't bring myself to put the Book of Memories protagonist in C tier, so they're gonna have to share this tier. Also, by the way, I like this cover. People should use this one more instead of the regular one that I see on thumbnails. This one slaps. Right, we're moving into the secondary characters. This is Derek Copeland. This is the protagonist's co-worker. And the protagonist wants their race. So to sabotage him, positively or negatively, they make Derek either a slacker who parties too much and loses the job, or make him very competent so that he gets transferred to another place. Either way, I guess he's not very special, though I feel bad for him in the one where he loses his job. I'm gonna put him below M. Coons. Alright, this is no Matthew and Katie, I think. Collins. These are the love interests for the protagonist. I don't remember them being anything special, really. I would say that they were both forgettable to me. I didn't really care about that level. It was pretty much the protagonist forcing them to be in love with them, which is messed up. Don't do that. Officer Graham Reynolds. We have to start this with saying that this is an awful person. Officer Reynolds is investigating you and your weird moves with the Book of Memories. So, to get him off your track, you either derail his life or help him make an important arrest that pretty much diverts his focus away from you. And that would be fine, but then we also learn that this guy, this 60 something year old guy, is dating your 15-year-old sister. And that's so fucked up. I'm going to put him, alongside Sanchez. I don't know to put him above or below. I don't care. He's horrible, and we don't really know much about him outside of those two arcs. So there's that. And here we have the second part of the love interest story. These are Trent or Ashley Baker, who are Matthew or Katie's exes, depending on your gender. Um, I remember them being very obsessive and creepy. I guess they make more of an impact than the love interests. Still very forgettable. I'm gonna put them. No, I don't like them. I'm gonna put them alongside Officer Reynolds. Then in the story, we found out we find out that this guy, Jack Merrick, has a book of memories. This is the guy that Officer Reynolds arrested, and he's using it to commit crimes and escape the police and everything. I'm gonna say, for this game, this is the first interesting story that they tell. Um, Still pretty weird. Um, I would say he's actually more interesting than the protagonist, but not by much. He's still a very one-dimensional thing. And this is Shannon, I think. This is your sister. She's struggling a lot with mental health, and this officer dating her. I don't think it takes much to get me to care more, but I guess she's going slightly below you. She's still not very creative, I'd say. I guess when in a franchise like this, at some point you're gonna get a bit burnt out of a character with poor mental health. We have a few characters that are only in notes. This is Lorelei Reynolds. This is Officer Reynolds' wife. She's mentioned only once, and she's very tired of him. I can see why. I guess she has an impact similar to Carol Pendleton, but since it's such a small arc, is even smaller of a scale. Samuel Chester, I'm actually quite interested in this guy because this is the son of Patrick Chester, the guy that fought in the Civil War and that we see a monument of in Rosewater Park in Silent Hill 2. So there's a note from this guy's book of memories in which he wrote that he met Howard Blackwood in Silent Hill shortly after the Civil War ended. And thankfully, Samuel Chester is not racist. He was actually quite happy to meet a black man uh, having his own job in this town. And being a historical figure, at least in the Silent Hill universe, and actually get a note from him, that was kind of interesting. So even if it was only one note, I'm going to put him in B tier. Michelle Valdez. So this is kind of supposed to be the mainline counterpart of Michelle from Shattered Memories. And I have to say, this Michelle is a bit of an asshole. She's kind of a mean girl. I prefer the Shattered Memories Michelle, but I guess she's a character. Um, Loved it here. All right, we have the arcade left. This is going to be interesting because I can't remember which of these three guys is which. Let's start with the protagonist, Eric. So, Eric, he kinda looks like he kinda has Henry Townsend's fashion style. The protagonists of the arcade are kind of bland, since it's just an arcade game, doesn't isn't a full-on narrative, but it actually has an interesting story. And Eric's story is that he's the grandson something of the captain of the Little Baroness, the ship that was mentioned in Silent Hill 2 that went missing in Toluca Lake. So Eric and Tina, who's here and looks like Jill Valentine, went to Silent Hill as part of an study group to learn more about the area. And Eric, in particular, wanted to learn more about his grandfather. He's not really much of a character, I can't put him any high, but I guess I'm gonna put him in a D tier. I say Tina, uh, this girl that looks like Jill Valentine, is slightly more interesting in a weird way because okay, I know that probably back in the day, like many years ago, it was seen as normal to have a pen pal to exchange letters with, but Tina is exchanging letters with a what is she, a 10-year-old? And I think nowadays that is a very weird thing to do. But Tina's motivation is that besides going into study group, she's going to meet the girl she's been exchanging letters with, who is Hannah, no, Emily Anderson. And that's pretty much the extent of the two of them's, both of them's motivations. They get to the motel, and when they get out, it's foggy, and their friends are missing, most of them. And they grab guns and start shooting. That's the plot. This is Hannah Anderson. This is the girl that Tina wanted to meet. She's more interesting than both of them. She has been troubled lately because she's been slowly possessed by the ghost of a girl that died in the Little Baroness. So she kind of has this cute, cute girl persona, but also there's a few flashbacks in which she's acting a little creepy. At least she's interesting enough to be in B-tier to me, and I think the game mostly plays it out interestingly. Tina, for most of the game, is trying to find her. They run across each other a few times, and here is her father. This is oh Anderson, Frank Anderson. He is the director of the Silent Hill Historical Society. Uh, he's pretty much running around town trying to find Emily and help her, but Emily is too far gone, possessed by Hannah, the girl from the Little Baroness. So Frank kinda shows up every now and then, trying to help Emily, and when they get to the Little Baroness, he kinda has a cool confrontation with Hannah's mother, and I kinda like him. Also, Frank Anderson is mentioned in the promotional ARG that they did for Silent Hill 2 Remake. If you went to the Silent Hill Historical Society website, you could find that in the director's profile that he is succeeding Frank Anderson as the head of the Historical Society. And it's really fucking cool that they are referencing the arcade game while promoting the full-blown remake. I love it. Next up is Michelle Anderson. This was Frank Anderson's wife and Emily's mother. We know she was a nice mother, but she was murdered one night when a thief, I think it was a thief, maybe it was a serial killer, but a man broke into their homes and murdered her. That's pretty much all we know about her. Um, an innocent. Put her in it here. Scott Fairbanks. So this is the man that murdered Michelle Anderson, but funnily, this is not the first game Scott Fairbanks appears in. Scott Fairbanks was one of the wrong answers to the radio show in Silent Hill 2, where they asked the name of the serial killer that murdered the Locane twins. One of the wrong answers was Scott Fairbanks, and then the arcade made Scott Fairbanks its own kinda its own character. He's only mentioned in name as being the man that murdered Michelle Anderson, so it's still not a big cameo, but I found it very interesting that they chose him. Next up is Hannah. This is the girl that died in the Little Baroness and is possessing Emily Anderson. Hannah was very sick, very, very sick about everything that would ever touch her. So her mother, Lorraine, decided to quote unquote put her out of her misery by throwing her off the little Baroness the night that it went missing. Hannah died, and now her ghost is possessing Emily Anderson. At the end of the game, Emily and Hannah become the Phantom, a huge monster with like no eyes, bunch of tendrils, and it actually looks very fucking cool, even though it's kinda odd. I would put her above Emily. And also, she didn't deserve getting killed. She was an innocent, an innocent girl with her teddy bears. Actually, I will put her higher because of the cool boss design. Oh, Lorraine, this is where the arcade gets weird. When you finally defeat the Phantom and release Hannah's soul or whatever, you appear back, you see a flashback. No, not a flashback. I guess just a scene in general in the Little Baroness where Hannah reunites with her mother, Lorraine. And guess what? They still very much love each other, even though Lorraine fucking murdered her because she was too sickly. That was kind of messed up. I don't forgive. Hannah may forgive Lorraine, but I don't. I hate her. I don't know if she's worse or better than say Amy from Amy Johnson from Downpour for killing the child. But at least Amy wasn't redeemed by the narrative. I hate Lorraine. The captain. The captain is the fucking best. He's he was the captain of the Little Baroness and Eric's grandfather, and he has a really cool mustache. He seems like a nice guy. He tries to console um, Hannah after she dies again, and he says goodbye to Eric in the normal endings. But if you get the UFO ending, I mean, this whole game has very bad but awesomely funny voice performances. But the captain gives his best in the UFO ending to say that if you want to catch him, you have to follow him into the depths of the universe. And he goes off in a spaceship. And it's fucking awesome. So Captain S tier, he's fucking great. Alright, we're getting into the four whatevers. This is the first guy that we meet in the arcade. He is found outside the motel alongside a gun and some bullets. No, it's a radio. We alongside a gun and a radio, and we don't know how he's alive, but he is. And Eric and Tina learn from him that the other friends have disappeared. That's pretty much it. That's his role. Uh, these four guys are very forgettable, but whatever. Um, for some reason, I can't remember her name, even though I could swear it was something very hard to forget. Either way, this is the only girl in the group, friends with Tina. I think she's the one that gets attacked by Pyramid Head and tuberculosis in the hospital. Uh, She gets a couple weird fake out deaths, if that's her. I think she's a loaded here. If I remember her correctly, which there's no guarantee I do, because these four characters in the arcade are very forgettable. One of these is George and the other one is Ryan. I don't know who is who. Um, this guy, I don't know. I don't know about these two. I don't remember anything about them. You save them from getting killed by monsters, and they say like a funny line afterwards, but that's it. I don't put them in, don't care about them because I remember that they are funny. Um, and that's the arcade done. What what time is it? 2 hours and 11 minutes of streaming. Yeah, we get to do this last ones in the comics. But first, Andy, the kid from the Lost Media Silent Hill play novel expansion. So the play novel had downloadable content that you could access through your phone by connecting it to your Game Boy Advance. This downloadable content included a 4-season story arc involving this kid named Andy, who was stowed away in Harry's car when he went to Silent Hill, and he gets stuck in Silent Hill alongside them. Um, Not much is known about him. We only have a guide for his first chapter, but the rest of the scenario is lost media. It's lost forever, and because the expansion was downloaded directly to the Game Boy Advance's memory, it would get deleted when it got reset. So there's pretty much no guarantee that there's any Game Boy Advance in existence that has them. And that's fascinating. Um, Andy as a character, though, I'm gonna put him alongside Emily. I mean, he's just an innocent kid trying to understand what is going on, which is cool. We don't have much of a kid in Silent Hill. He was friends with Cheryl, and the one glimpse we get of him in the main game is that in Sibyl's scenario, you might find Cheryl scuffling with him near a canal, and that's everything we know about Andy. Okay, up next is my favorite comic of them all. I think this is big Silent Hill comics. It doesn't get any better than this. It gets a lot worse than that. And this is exactly how I imagine Silent Hill was back in the Civil War era. Like, even before reading this comic, this was exactly how I wanted it to be. So, Past Life takes place right after the end of the Civil War. This man named Jebediah Foster is moving into Silent Hill with his wife, Esther Monroe, because he wants to leave behind his life of being a, how do you say it, one of those outlaws that were hired to kill natives. He wants to leave that life behind. He's not very proud of what he did, but he's still a very, very angry man inside. Jebediah is very troubled. I think it's really heavy to think about the things that he did, and we do see some of the things that he did, even the worst ones. Uh, he he's complex in a way that he doesn't know if he's justifying himself or if he's actually improving. His delusions in Silent Hill are extremely mundane. They're things he doesn't see an entire other world. He just sees fragments of his past showing up as if it was the present. And I really love that to explore his character. He eventually gives in to his impulses and fails to save himself, and it's implied that he dies in a fire, but I don't think it's shown. I think Jebediah is an S tier character. Hot take. I love Jebediah as a character. I would hate him as a person, definitely. But he's very compelling. He's very gruff. He's exhausted. But he's not exhausted and angry in the same way as Murphy is. This is exhaustion and anger with numbness instead of sadness. And I really like that portrayal. Next up is Esther Monroe. Esther is Jebediah's wife, and the good in him. She wants to start a new life, help Jebediah become a better person. She's very Catholic, she goes to church, and she's pregnant. She's pregnant with Jebediah's first child, and of course, she needs to take a lot of care of herself. Also, if I remember correctly, her family used to live in Silent Hill, and that's why they're moving there to their old family house. The house is a mess, but Esther wants to renovate it. She's pretty much the good side for Jebediah. Um, she ends up suffering. She will suffer. She feels realistic. I like her. I think she might not have as much of an arc as Jebediah in the comic, but I think she completely fulfills her purpose and her role. A tier. This is Inola. This is a native. I'm not sure if she's a Cherokee woman, but I know that she's native. She's in Silent Hill for a very particular reason. Turns out Jebediah killed her daughter, Aguanita, back in his outlaw days, and she was pregnant. So Inola has followed them here, has lived in this area for a while, and this is kind of the start of Silent Hill's descent into cruelty. Well, not really, but this is where things with magic amp up. Inola is slowly turning the baby inside Esther into her daughter resurrected. So Enola is kind of here to torment Jebediah, make sure that Awanita is born again. And does that sound familiar? And that's because I think that this story is trying to do a reversal of Silent Hill 1. Enola is trying to do a Dahlia thing to resurrect not a god, but her own child from someone else's womb. And this results in a house fire. I think that's kind of overlooked about the story because it might not have been intentional, but I think it fits really well that the very start of the timeline that we get to see happens so similarly to the start of the modern era in Silent Hill. Inola, I think she works very well as a character and as an antagonist. Clear motivations. She's a bit crazy, but you understand her. It almost feels like she's pretending to be crazy. Um, that said, I do see why some people might find it a bit um, tone deaf or problematic as a representation of a native woman. I get it. Hmm. I still think as a character and as a role, as a purpose, she's an A tier. Maybe I think she might be above Esther. Next up is Awanita herself. This is Inola's daughter, who Jebediah killed back when he was exterminating natives. Awanita was in the middle of giving birth when Jebediah killed her, and now she's back. At first, she's just an apparition. She appears in the corner of Jebediah's eyes, appears in the shadows outside the house. But as the story progresses, she gets more and more physical until by the end, both Aguanita's apparition and Inola are holding Esther as she gives birth to Aguanita again. It, I love it. I love it as a story. We don't get to see much of the original living Aguanita, but counting her monster form, her lurking presence, I like her a bit more than Inola because Inola is a very physical threat. In as in you see the characters interacting with her a lot. Aguanita is always in the shadows, just barely out of frame, and I love that unyielding presence throughout past life. Here we have um, Sheriff Seth Craviston. This is the sheriff of Silent Hill. Maybe. Seth has a blind eye from an unspecified injury, but as we get to learn, Sheriff Craviston might be a piece of Jebediah's past. We learned flashbacks along with Jebediah that Sheriff Craviston once tried to confront them over some stolen ship, I think, and Jebediah responded by slashing his eye with a knife. Craviston acts as a secondary antagonist in past life. He at first, when Jebediah doesn't remember who he is, he's he kind of shows up as an unhelpful but almost friendly sheriff, a bit threatening, until eventually, when Jebediah remembers, Seth finally appears at the Monroe house. Um, they have a final confrontation. I think he's cool. I don't know how cool he is. I don't know if he's an A tier. No, he's an A tier. It's the next ones who are probably in a lower tier. But I think Sheriff Craviston works well in both design and purpose as a secondary antagonist that is more rooted in Jebediah's mind than Inola, who is very much real and threatening both of them. Next up is Jonas Leak. This is the bartender of Silent Hill Tavern. Jonas is, he's a stereotypical, bartender, foul-mouthed, trying to sell prostitutes. You know the deal. Um, he is not very helpful with Jebediah. So eventually, Jebediah remembers that he knows Jonas because Jebediah used to sleep with Jonas's wife, Helene. It's right here, putting her up with her husband. So Jonas attempted to kill Jebediah when he found out about the affair, and Jebediah responded by killing them both. Uh, when Jebediah is remembering everything, and there's the final confrontation in the house. Uh, if I remember correctly, Jonas, or his apparition, is killed by. Okay, so here's the thing. Either Jonas or Sheriff Craviston. No, I think Jonas is killed by getting set getting set ablaze with an oil lantern, while Sheriff Craviston gets an axe to the head when Jebediah's old violent tendencies come back. However, in his original death, Jonas got shot point blank with a shotgun. He's definitely I find him the least interesting character of Past Life. What's more interesting is Helene. Helene was the woman that Jebediah was having an affair with, and when Jonas found out, Jebediah also killed her. So now that he's in Silent Hill, Helene appears and kinda leads him on, and it seems that Jebediah is a bit interested, but also he's trying to be better. Eventually, by the climax of the story, Helene appears in his barn and kinda wants him. And then Jebediah, what does he do? I think he slashes her. You can see her in her neck, and her face starts turning into a skull. And it's a very simple concept, but it looks really cool in the comic. I really like Helene over Jonas for that. So I think she should be somewhere above Jill Conway, I guess. And the final character of Past Life, who is a very minor character, but it's a very cool novel. This is Reverend Stone. He appears in one scene. He's doing the whole preacher thing to the church, talking about reciting Bible verses and all. But the very interesting thing about him is that he is an ancestor of Our old friend Jimmy Stone from Silent Hill 4, the priest of the Valtiel sect. I find that to be such a cool nod that even though he's a very minor character, I'm going to put him in a high C tier because it leaves you so much to think about. How did this very, at least externally, very Catholic guy become the ancestor of a priest in a secret cult? Was he already in it? I like to think about that. So that's past life done, and we only have the last three characters from Anne's story. One of them isn't even technically from Anne's story, but he had his speaking role here. So, as we said, Ascension and the movies will be in the next and last stream. Right now we have these three to take care of. And first up is Mark Cunningham. This is Anne's ex-husband. He was, as usual for her, he was a cop, a prison guard. And he seems to be an okay guy at first, but when Frank gets incapacitated and Anne starts spending all her time taking care of him, Mark gets really upset. He thinks that Anne is wasting her life away, that by taking constant care of him instead of having him in a hospital where people can help him better. Mark has gets very exhausted and doesn't really want to agree with him. Then, when Frank eventually dies of his injuries, Mark gets says a really bad thing, kind of like telling her to move on already, and yet he doesn't leave her. Eventually, Anne tries to get her revenge plan in motion and sleeps with the prison warden at Wayside Max, and Mark finds out, and that's when he leaves her. I don't think he's a good husband. I think he had a point at first, but he went about it in a terrible way. Also, Anne didn't seem to care much about him after he left her, so he didn't really have much of an impact. Uh, I'm putting him in a high D tier. Next up is Leonard Trent. Leonard was the warden at Wayside Max prison and struck a deal with him to get Murphy moved to that prison where they both worked. So, she could kill him as she expected. But Leonard is a scummy guy and he coerces Anne into sexual favors in exchange for getting Murphy transferred. And he's very, very sleazy about it. So what happens during Anne's story? When Anne is in Devil's Pit, she sees a manifestation of Leonard, and it's the most blatantly phallic thing that has ever appeared in all of Silent Hill. I don't know if to be weirded out or to respect that. I think he's a. Oh my god, I don't know where to place him. Low cedar because of the balls in that design. No pun intended. And the last one is a minor character who appeared in Silent Hill Downpour. This is Freddy Gates. Freddy fucking Gates. Uh, this guy was seen boarding the prison bus, and then in Downpour, still in Downpour, you find him with a bag on his head, bleeding out. Well, already dead in Devil's Pit. And story fills in the gaps for this character, and goes into Devil's Pit looking for Officer Willis, and finds Freddy beating up a person in the floor. She initially sees him as Murphy, but then finds out that it's Freddy, another inmate. She lowers her guard, and Freddy attempts to attack her while her back is turned. Then a whipping bat appears from behind and rips his face open, and it is gnarly. Anne runs away and leaves Freddy to get slaughtered by the whipping bat. He has a really cool intro in a story, Freddy fucking Gates. And I really like the detail that you can find his body in Downpour. Also, he died in a very gnarly way. I'm gonna put him in B tier. And that's everything for today. Today we did Downpour, PT, The Arcade, Sinner's Reward, Past Life, and an story. Did I miss anything? And Book of Memories, of course. And Andy from Play Novel, I guess. We're almost. This is almost over. Um, oh, it's late. Oh my god. Um, only a few things to go. Most of it being Ascension cameos. It might probably not be a very long stream, but I hope it'll be fun. And I'll probably tell you about stuff in Ascension's story that you probably don't know because I know you didn't watch it. It's going to be fun. Thanks a lot for hanging out here. Um, it's been a while since the last stream because life stuff, and tomorrow my town might get hit by a tsunami. Who knows? It might not be a very large one. Anyway, I'm going to be safe, and hopefully I'll see you again when things settle down and I get to do that last stream. Goodbye.